All right. Generally, when I do a series like this, I like to show you every step and the video proof. Now, in this case, I'm not gonna upload the video. It's 6.5 gigabytes, showing a full hour of me shooting at a 6-inch coffee can, and it looked like it really rejected the middle, and it looked like I had gone out of my way to shoot the rim. If I had been doing that, I would say it was the most accurate bow I've made. Not quite. I mean, I made some really accurate bush bows, but it's because I understand how to index things and how things should be laid out. Now, if you look carefully at this, you'll notice there's a lip here. This is actually to help catch the fletching and direct it up over. It actually helps. And I've noticed that even when the fletchings are of a type that is throwing the arrow off, um, this helps. They throw it off less because of this. But I found that it was going pretty high, but I double checked the spot that I had planned to be running my arrows, and this is the perfect spot. But I noticed when I looked at it really closely that it was on a slight angle upward. And if you can see now, it's a slight, very slight shallow arch, and that's what you want. I actually have the highest point of that arch is right here, and this is a nice shallow slope. That's actually not an arch, it's a straight line, but it's a shallow slope. And then here it's actually arched downward, and then the whole thing uh, works better, I'm guessing. I'm going to test it out in this video. We're going to see how it goes. Um, I'm also going to address the targets I've been shooting at because I just deleted a video where I had showed a target that I built, and I've been making arrows bounce off of it instead of having sharp tips and punch through it. However, this is one of the arrows I was using, and I hadn't even noticed it, but at the tip, I noticed it was way inaccurate. And when I checked it, I noticed the rest of it is fine. And I had failed to notice the rest of it being, it seemed all right. I had heard some weird noises from it uh, when it hit the ground, and you can hear it in the video. And I knew it didn't have much time left. So that's toast. These are some of the arrows that I have been shooting, guys. And you can see they don't survive this whole thing. You're better off just shooting into a coffee can than you are shooting into the target that I made, you might think. But if you were outdoors and in the grass, and you have tips on it that are appropriate, that are pretty rounded, you'll be fine. They'll bounce just fine, and they'll end up in the grass. Most of this damage has been fired, has come from them being fairly weak arrows and me firing them from too powerful a bow. Um, but I did want to warn you about that. If you are going to make a target like that, you're going to destroy a lot of arrow shafts, and it's actually cheaper for you to just use paper targets, because now I'm spending $30 on arrows and not building up my quiver. I'm literally bought 2 packs of arrows this month, and I've only got 3 arrows to show for it, and that's why. Here's the other 3. So they only come in threes. Well, there's the other 3. So you can see where that goes. Last video, I started with 4 arrows. Now, I did notice some wonky feel from that arrow, and it was very inaccurate, which was weird. And I commented on it in the video, which won't be going up, which is why I'm repeating it. And the only reason I'm letting you guys know all this is I've pulled the video on that target I made. You see it in all my shooting videos. I'm shooting at it all the time. I actually don't recommend that you make that unless you're prepared to deal with the fact that it's going to damage more tips and more shafts. I actually do it partly because I want to shoot indoors in my neighborhood, and it helps to be able to do that. I'm going to get a standard archery target, and I highly recommend you get a proper target, or at the very least, use something like a cardboard box or something that won't be as damaging to the arrows. A coffee can works, but you want to use a soft background. I've got a concrete floor that I'm shooting on and a soft background. You're so much better off shooting out at these outside. I really recommend you do your archery outside, even though you'll see a lot of us YouTubers doing it inside. A lot of that has to do with the camera and the fact that we have to film it for you guys, and it has to be decent visibility. I've tried shooting a lot of film outdoors, and it's really hard to film properly outdoors, guys. So in this, I wanted to cover a couple of things. One, the arrow shelf, when I tested it here at close range, seemed just fine. But as soon as I moved out to farther range while I'm pulling harder shots, you got to remember this is a soft handle, so it bows. It actually changes shape a little bit. And as it was bowing, this part of the arrow rest was coming up too high as it leans back. And don't forget, it bows right here. So as this was leaning back, this was no longer coming out straight. So on a really light shot upstairs, it was working perfectly. But then when I took it downstairs to try and hit a farther away target, it was difficult. Now, I knew early on and mentioned in one of my videos that because these are soft handles, an arrow rest is something I was quite nervous about installing. That's why, because I wasn't sure I could overcome that. But then it occurred to me all I really have to do is do it this way. Also, I had my arrow shelf angled slightly downward, and I found that the arrow tended to want to fall off it once in a blue moon. Now it's dead straight. So, on one angle, it's straight as far as the level goes when you look at this rounded portion. That's the only portion you really need to look on, believe it or not. And that portion is actually slightly angled. You can see it right there. It's slightly angled upward, but it's the only part that is. The rest is actually angled downward, partly to help the arrow come onto it and partly to help the fletching get guided while giving as little resistance as possible to the arrow. This shelf is now improved, and it did technically work, but it was properly indexed, but something was wonky when I went out to longer range. So I believe I've addressed that problem. I'm going to go on to the next bow now and show you that, and then I'll pause, and then I'll go downstairs and we'll do some shooting. Now, sometimes when I go to pause, it stops on me, and if that's the case, that'll suck. So here's another one that's a very similar setup. Now, this one, when I actually hold the bow in my hand, you can see that this is slightly angled up and is level. Now, I got to tell you, this bow has a really long draw, and because of that, I actually don't see that being a problem with this particular bow. So I'm not too worried about it, but you can see the tip of that shelf is still kind of angled up, and I'm going to kind of work it into the position I want it and then add more CA glue into the gap there, and just continue to kind of mold it and shape it. I mean, it is plastic, so you can just do that and bend it. And then what I like to do is bend it and then glue it in place. So this is what it looks like when I first install the shelf. Now, I'm actually going to take this with a pair of pliers and bend this down just a little. But I want it to be a nice even bend, so I'm going to do it that way. So I'll be right back. All right, so all I've done here is grab it with a pair of pliers and angle it back. And now I'm going to rock it back up a little bit, just a little, right about there. I want it at a nice shallow angle. Now I'm going to do the exact same at the front. And then I'm going to take this area and I'm going to push it up with my thumb while grabbing the other two and pulling them down a little bit. That'll get it into the shape I want. Hold on, I'll show you when it's done. All right, so now that that's finished, you can see that that has imparted a little more shape to it. And we have that rise up in the middle, just like I showed you on the other one, where the arrow shelf angles a little up so that it's nice. It actually angles up a little more than the other one. The reason for that isn't accidental. It's because this is a longbow and its arrows are designed to be much, much longer. Once again, this is also designed to help me make my position more locked in, so my hand's not sliding up and down. My thumb will stay locked. And as I showed, this is intended to index on my hand, that shelf. And now that this is all installed, that actually helps quite a bit. It fits my hand really nicely. So all I'm going to do now is run some glue gun glue in here. Heck no, CA glue only. I don't want anything that's going to be getting warmed up by my hand or on a hot day. This is black. I don't want it melting on me and coming loose. No, I want this to be as solid as it possibly can, guys. Also, this video is getting pretty long. It's already at 10 minutes. So I'm just going to cut this one and we're going to go to the next one. I'm just going to, because I'm pretty sure that I've gotten this right, and I can break it loose if I have to. In fact, I'm pretty much 100% sure I've gotten this right. It does see how it angles upward, though. And that's just the trick. When I'm actually holding this bow in my hand, it actually sits like this, guys. And when you look at it like that, it's level. So this is the really important thing. You can't just hold it static or look at it. You have to put it in the position you're going to be shooting, which for me is actually right here. And when you put it right here and you look, you see that that shelf is exactly what I was talking about. It's pretty much dead level, coming off straight. It's got a little drop off at the end of it. That's actually to help the fletchings ride over and do so smoothly. And then the rest of it is actually just to catch the arrow and to hold on to it and to be as smooth as possible about that. Now, once again, I've cut it right to the core and I've slit this deep enough that I'm actually up against the fiberglass rod or composite rod. And then I'm going to CA glue the crap out of it. Now, I've already glued it in, but now that I've set the shape, I'm going to add a little CA glue all along the edge of it, and it'll just help lock in the shape and keep it rock solid. It's already quite strong, actually. I'm surprised. These actually come out very, very good, guys. Anyway, that being said, this is the arrow shelves that I'm going to be using and how I'm making them and how I'm forming them. This is actually a credit card material. I'm using my snippets from when you get a Canadian Tire card. They have these little keychain bits on them, and this is the separator that holds them together. Works great. Any credit card that you're not using, trust me, you're better off destroying it anyway. Okay, maybe that's unfair, but that being said, I'm going to get to it, guys. This is how I'm doing my arrow shelves. And honestly, from the test I did on the last one, they work really great, but you have to have them dialed in exactly. They have to be straight. And now this is the thing, really. If you were to look at the bow, it's not straight at all. But when you look at the angle I hold the bow at, suddenly turn it, and bam, it's basically perfect. But also because it arches, it's really easy for you to kind of twist your hand and find exactly the height that needs to be and kind of lay in shots and adjust it and fine tune it until you get it perfect. And then when you do, you're going to take, because you want your thumb to fit in here, you're going to take a couple of pieces of this material really thin, and you're going to lay them up underneath or one piece really, and like a bow, and then glue it in place so that you have a flat bottom to it and your hand will rest up against that. You won't have these sharp edges if you sand it. That's another consideration. But I actually like this because it's not too sharp and it helps me to lock in my hand and it feels really comfy. And this is how it sits when I'm locked into it. You can see it guides the arrows up over my thumb, and it's really ideal. So that being said, that's one way you can go about DIYing your arrow shelves. I never see anybody show you how to make an arrow shelf on these bows, guys. I wanted to cover it because it is really important. I promised at the beginning of this video series that I was not making these bows like other people. And in every way, I'm not. I don't see anybody else using wax. I don't see anybody else showing you how to treat the string properly for these type of bows and how to treat the paracord. Although I do absolutely 100%, I know there's a couple of people showing you. I guarantee it. I just figured if there was enough of them, I'd see more of them. And if there aren't, then I'm not seeing enough of them. I'm seeing a ton of these guys show you how to make these bows, real simple, real fast video, but they don't show you any detail, and they don't show you how to index properly or build a handle or do anything useful. They don't show you any boyering. All they show you is, here, take this rod, stick that on it. There, you got a bow. I mean, that's not enough, guys. That doesn't get you a bow. Keith out.